Hey everyone, I'm Kaitlyn O'Shaughnessy, an immigration attorney with Osorio. Today, I want to talk to you about something called a U visa, which is an immigration option benefit available to people who have been the victim of a crime in the United States. So, the Congress created the U visa as a visa for immigrant victims of certain crimes who have suffered severe mental or physical abuse and are helpful to law enforcement in the investigation or prosecution of the crime. That's the description. And so a lot of my clients, especially undocumented clients, come to me and tell me that they've been the victim of a crime, sometimes a really serious crime, and they were too scared to report it, or they reported it and then nothing happened, or something like that. And I do think it's really important to know that reporting a crime that you're the victim of, in my experience, is not likely to get you deported. On the contrary, as a non-citizen or an undocumented person, if you report a crime and you get a police report, that can be the first step to actually getting yourself status in the United States. So I'm going to run through these options or how this whole process works, because I know that actually reaching out to the police when you're undocumented can be really scary. So let me explain the U visa and how your attorney can help you, and then you can make a decision as to whether or not it's a fit for you. All right, so the requirements for applying for a U visa are that you are the victim of a qualifying crime. So I'm using these air quotes when I'm using USCIS's actual language here. We're going to talk about what the qualifying crimes are in a little bit. The crime occurred in the United States or broke United States law. You suffered substantial physical or mental abuse as a result of suffering this crime. You have info about the criminal activity, and you were helpful or are likely to be helpful to law enforcement. So if the victim of the crime is under 16, then the requirements shift a little bit. It can be a parent or a guardian or someone else who provides that info to law enforcement. It doesn't have to be the actual child victim. And so the U visa is only available for a specific list of qualifying crimes, but the list is pretty broad. Instead of going through every exact crime, because that's honestly going to be your lawyer's job, I'm going to give you a general overview of what would probably qualify for a U visa. And if something like that has happened to you, you should definitely go speak to a lawyer about it. Okay. So generally speaking, and this is, again, I'm simplifying generally, most violent crimes and most sexual crimes will meet the criteria, will create U visa eligibility. Domestic violence, incest, familial crimes that involve sexual abuse or domestic abuse also come under that list. There are other crimes as well. So female genital mutilation. If you've been a victim of female genital mutilation in the United States, that is considered a qualifying crime and could create eligibility for a U visa. Same with some others like extortion, blackmail, stalking, perjury, also fraud in foreign labor contracting. So even if the crime wasn't necessarily violent, but revolved around work or fraud in work, it's something that you should at least raise with your lawyer, and then the two of you can decide, or the two of us can decide if it's U visa eligible. And again, so with our YouTube videos, if you call or email the office, mention that you saw us on YouTube, we will give you 50% off your initial consultation fee. So then the initial consultation is only $100. All right, so how to apply for the U visa? It happens in 2 steps. The first step is getting the certification. And again, I'm simplifying just so that I'm speaking English and not legalese to you, but generally law enforcement is going to sign this document saying this person was helpful in the investigation or prosecution of the crime. in order to get this document, you need to have some sort of proof that you actually were helpful or that you're willing to be helpful. Generally speaking, a police report is sufficient. In other cases, someone will have a police report, but then the actual perpetrator of the crime will have been caught. And so maybe the victim, the immigrant, went and testified in court. So then you should have documents about those as well. But important to collect those documents, and that'll help your lawyer make quick work out of the certification process. And if you can't get the report or you don't know how, that's something that your immigration lawyer might also be able to help you with. So if you don't have the proper documentation, don't panic. We can help with that. That part, in terms of the timeline, is it depends on which police department or which prosecutor's office is doing the certifying, but generally speaking, it's pretty quick. Not always, but generally fairly straightforward. So then once you have that document, you can apply for the actual U visa. And then when you're applying for the actual U visa, you're going to need to fill out a bunch of forms. You're going to need to write a personal statement describing what happened to you and how you were helpful to law enforcement and how you suffered substantial physical or mental abuse as a result of being the victim of this crime. And in a U visa application, you can generally include your spouse and your children. And then if a minor child is the victim of a crime, let's say a 14-year-old or an 8-year-old or whatever, that child can normally sponsor his or her parents and their siblings. This is a really long process in this part, right? So the approval technically happens in one step. You get approved, but prior to that approval, USCIS will probably issue you something called a bona fide determination, the BFD. And with that, generally, you will also receive employment authorization. The timeline from filing your U visa up to receiving your bona fide determination right now, according to the USCIS website, is 63 months. So that's approximately 5 years. And that's only until the bona fide determination. And then after that is the actual approval. So if you are going this route, it's a long route, and you should just keep that in mind. And so why does it take, so long to get a U visa approval? And the main reason is that the government will only grant 10,000 U visas a year. And this doesn't count the derivatives. So it doesn't count your spouse and kids, for example. It just counts you, the primary. But then everyone else who's not included in that 10,000, they get put on this wait list. So this wait list is now several years long. And the unfortunate part of the U visa is that you can't work while your U visa is pending until you get this bona fide determination paperwork. And that deferred action bona fide determination will help you with being able to work and whatnot, but it's still not a complete approval. So a couple of other things to know for the U visa are that a person can apply for the U visa from outside the United States as long as the crime occurred in the United States, violated US law. And then once you have your actual full U visa approval, generally speaking, after 3 years, you can then go ahead and apply for your green card, and usually your family members can as well. So the U visa can be a really good option because along with it, we can also file a waiver of inadmissibility. So for example, if you entered without inspection, if you have unlawful presence, things like that, then the U visa can actually, you can have those inadmissibilities waived with a U visa so that you can stay in the United States during the entire process versus, for example, a family process where you wouldn't be eligible for a waiver for certain inadmissibilities in the United States. So without getting too complicated, I want the general overview of this video to be that if you don't have status in the US and you were the victim of a crime, come and talk to an immigration attorney and we can help figure out with you if you're going to be eligible for a U visa and if it's a good idea for you. Okay, thanks for joining me today.